Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about this unusual yet large and pretty strong winter storm system that is going to be walking its way into the United States from the Pacific. I mean, literally, it's kind of impressive the amount of precipitation this system will have. It's not something we've been seeing so far this past few months with the pattern. It's definitely something that is unusual with a La Nina pattern, something you'd more typically see with an El Nino. Yeah, it's gonna be a big pattern change for many folks. There's a lot of changes coming away in terms of the weather, a pretty much complete 180 flip, if not more. Well, I guess the 180, a complete 180 flip from the pattern that many people have been seeing. And again, there are some concerns with the system. Hopefully not as bad as the one we just saw. Right now, I don't know if you've been seeing the news, guys, but there was up to, I think now, the death toll from this historic winter storm that we saw. I mean, I think 55 people are officially confirmed dead, anywhere from Colorado to New York, with I think deaths in 13 states. So really, it was an incredible system, and that's why, me and all the other people on YouTube were warning about this. So was the National Weather Service. When I say that was a system I haven't seen in years, I meant it. And even if some locations saw 2-3 inches, that doesn't mean the system didn't come true. Obviously, it was very hard to predict because of the nature of it, but goodness, I could say, firmly, this one won't be as bad for most people. Still, it will be impactful. And hopefully we don't see a system for the rest of the year that's as bad as that. But, signs are showing that that may not be the case. All right, for now, let's start talking about this. And let me start off with the Northwestern United States. If you are new to this channel, I divide my videos by region. So I, talk about the Northwest, about the Southwest, and I divide the scroll bar into that section. So you can skip to the chapter or go to the description box below. Click on the blue numbers next to your region. It'll take you directly to where I start talking about your region, so you're not left watching a 30-minute video about a bunch of states you don't really particularly care about. So I'm going to do that and start talking about the Northwestern United States. So for the folks that live across this area, you guys are going to get absolutely slammed by this winter storm. But more importantly, I want to say is that besides this winter storm that's coming in now, there will be a series of monsters moving in one after the other for well into the new year. I mean, the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, potentially well into the first week of January. The amounts of precip that could fall are going to be ridiculous. Obviously, a lot of these areas, especially in other southern areas, are dry, but still with such amount of precipitation, the short-term risks are flooding, mudslides, debris flows. I mean, really significant rainfall. So you notice that we have the first one moving in right now. It is at 974, so it is a strong system. 965 millibars right there. That is actually a very strong system. Notice the amount of moisture it's pummeling into the Northwest. It's going to be moving in tonight. This thing's imminent for you guys here across the Northwest. Notice that a lot of it initially is falling as rain. There is a lack of cold air, so even the mountains are going to be struggling with seeing snow, unless they're, obviously the highest ones are going to be seeing snow, but the lower ones that typically see some snow won't. Notice this thing is at 974 millibars when it's making landfall tomorrow. Very heavy snow by the time we get into late tomorrow across the Bitterroots, into Wyoming, into northwestern Wyoming, much of Idaho, potentially northwestern Montana, Washington, Oregon. Notice across British Columbia, heavy snow. Alberta, Saskatchewan, also seeing some snow. Again, some areas will be seeing some rain across, especially the border areas just north of Montana there. But notice a very lit up, radar or lit up precipitation map here across the Northwestern United States. I'll show you the mounts in just a second, but truly an incredible event. You can see the snow starts winding down, not completely, but pretty much done for the most part by the time we get into Thursday. So you may be thinking, oh, we'll get a nice break just in time for the New Year's weekend, and that's not necessarily the case. Notice that by Thursday afternoon, we have another line of precipitation moving in from a system that's further up north. You can see the low pressure right there. So again, more precipitation. This time there's more cold air left in its wake. So by Thursday and Friday of this week, more snow, more rain across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Utah. I'm not getting maybe as far inland, the first little wave of the second storm, as the first storm did, but as soon as that seems like that may be a saving grace, we see another big system moving in, kind of the main piece of that wave, and you can see very heavy snow, very heavy rain, and this is just through the 30th of December, 4 days away from today, and we're already talking about our second well-developed system here, dropping lots of snow and rain. And then we have another massive system moving in and very far towards the south across California. So while this is the Northwest, Washington, Oregon gets spared, southern Northwestern, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming get a lot of snow from that. And the pattern continues, storm after storm. So you could quickly see how this thing is rather incredible in the sense that from each individual storm, obviously the amounts are going to be significant, but the fact that there's just going to be one after the other makes this really significant. So from the first storm, arguably, the most significant one, very significant amounts of rainfall. You can see many areas, especially by the Cascades, where all that flow gets stuck by the mountains, and it kind of allows more precipitation to fall than normally would if this was just open flat land. But the Northwest is unique in that sense. So notice 5-6 inches of precipitation equivalent in some of these areas, especially near Oregon and Washington. Then those multiple other systems keep moving in and dropping more and more and more. And by the time you get into I would say early to mid-January, we could really see some of these amounts start adding up. I'll show you some of the snowfall. The first system, again, won't be bringing as much snow as it should be, really, because of just inordinate lack of cold air. And you can see that, again, snow amounts will be in a 2-3 foot range, but with that amount of precip that could be falling with this first one, we would easily be able to see 4 to 5 feet if it wasn't for a lack of cold air. Notice though, with the next with the systems that follow this one, we see additional snow, and the amounts really start adding up. So really fantastic snow potential for the mountain ski resorts and all the reservations that rely the reservoirs, I meant to say, that rely on this heavy snowfall for filling up their water. This is really great news, and you can see that this continues. Some areas that do get avoided is potentially eastern Montana and maybe eastern Wyoming, but that still remains to be seen. Obviously, you can see a lot of these areas are lit up with extremely heavy snowfall. The European model, which goes out to 240 hours, really shows very similar rainfall and precipitation amounts. I'll just show you them for the whole 240-day forecast. Again, you can see limiting Montana, but Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Wyoming, northern Utah, northern Nevada here. Very significant rainfall across these areas. Truly significant rainfall. Something that is obviously concerning in its own right. Notice as I take a look at the snowfall amounts, also very significant. Doesn't go as far as the GFS, so some of these amounts are lighter. But again, as you can see, the European through the last time slot right here is starting to show another system rolling in, except we get cut off at hour 240 because that's how far the models go, and they don't go farther. At least this one doesn't. So again, just from this first system alone, the European does show quite a bit of precipitation. Again, significant amounts, probably the most significant storm out of all of these, though that remains to be seen, as some of the other ones may be growing in strength as we get closer in time to their occurrence. For now though, you could see easily 3-4 inches. Seattle could get 1-2 inches of rain, and then further inland also decent amounts of snowfall. Let's take a look at the southwestern United States and take a glance at what you guys are going to be dealing with. Again, this pattern is going to be impacting you as equally as the Northwest, meaning very significant precipitation amounts. And I want to focus more on this storm system itself, because again, as I mentioned to the folks that were watching across the Northwest section, here there will be a ton of rain, a ton of snow, and many systems, one after the other, each bringing a copious amount of precipitation. So great news for the reservoirs, but it's a lot, and I'll show you the whole pattern in its entirety actually right now. You can see storm after storm after storm after storm. This is now January 3rd, 4th, 5th. It just doesn't stop. But let me go back now and start showing you the system that we're going to be dealing with in the next 48 hours. And let me go back to the 18Z model run and show you this. So this thing is going to start moving in, pretty much already is moving in as I'm speaking, but you can see that it's still in its early phases. Heavy rain begins spreading across much of northern California. You can see eventually pushing into Nevada. Very heavy rainfall rates, potentially causing some flooding. Again, the snow will be limited across the mountains at first. Lack of cold air, however, through the help of dynamic cooling, you can see that we get some snowfall eventually starting to accumulate across the Sierras. Again, for the amount of cold air that there is, this is not as a significant snowfall event as it definitely could be if it was colder, because of just all that precip that's there. Notice though, Oroville, you guys are going to be really seeing rain in San Francisco, Sacramento, and notice the Central Sierra really get hammered here. Nevada pushing into Utah, into the Wasatch, Salt Lake City getting a lot, Idaho, Wyoming, into Colorado, and you can see that this spreads all the way into the southern Sierra Nevada by late Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see 10 p.m., 11, now it's 12, now it's into early Wednesday, late Tuesday, and you can see it finally leaves California, right? But it's still across Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, copious amounts of snow and precip, and that's good that this pattern might actually bring a lot of rain and snow and precip to potentially Lake Mead and the areas of Arizona and New Mexico where they haven't really seen that much precipitation. While the Sierra already has an above average season, these areas haven't, so that's definitely good. Notice total accumulated precipitation significant. I would not be surprised to see some pockets of maybe 6, 7, 8 inches of rainfall. Snowfall obviously also pretty significant despite the lack of cold air. Still some 30 to 40 inch amounts across the Sierra are definitely possible, if not likely. Wasatch, Colorado Rockies, easily a foot to foot and a half in some slash most areas. Notice in northern Arizona also getting in on this, and if I take a look at the GFS and put this a little bit forward to the ongoing pattern, you can see some of these snowfall and rainfall amounts with the next systems that follow this. Because again, this whole pattern is just incredible. It's not going to be just one storm. You can see Arizona, New Mexico getting on some pretty decent amounts here, but look at Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, California, incredible rain and snowfall amounts. Taking a look at the total precip amounts, you can see we see some incredible rain even across again the lower elevated areas, San Fran, Sacramento, further south across Los Angeles, you know, a little bit less, still significant rainfall, 2 to 3 inches at a minimum for this whole entire pattern. You know, I am supposed to be just talking about the single storm that is ongoing the next really 4 days, but I want to show you this whole pattern because that doesn't do justice for it. The whole pattern itself is incredible, and the storms are going to be so close one after the other. I might as well talk about the whole entirety of the pattern with a little bit of an extra focus on this first system. Again, that's going to be different for areas that are in different portions of the United States, as they're going to be kind of they're not going to be seeing one storm after the other, as a lot of these systems, once they pass the mountains, don't really do much. But yeah, they really deliver for some of these areas. Let's take a look at some of these mountains areas. Again, you can see winter storm warnings are obviously issued for this massive one coming in. Snow starting tonight. You can see they have damaging winds here. There could be some very strong winds, as much as 100 miles per hour. Again, these are elevated areas. This is like the peak of the mountains here, so this is not unheard of. However, there is obviously a high wind warning, so it's not something that's usual either. 13 to 19 inches, 5 to 9 inches tonight, tomorrow, and you can see that the forecast is snow, 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 snow. So the mountains are really going to pick up a lot of snow from this. And yeah, the high wind warning is really something that's also a really big concern, as this system that moves in is going to be pretty strong. The later ones may not be as significant, so that's kind of the silver lining here. Let's take a look at some of the rainfall amounts here. Notice that they have some localized flooding issue concerns, obviously, with just the sheer amount of rain that could fall. 2 to 4 in the foothills and mountains, 1 to 3 inches in the valley, still a very significant amount. Let's take a look at Sacramento. You can see showers, rain, showers, 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. That's pretty significant rainfall. Definitely something that's beneficial, but it's just a little bit too much of it, especially given the fact how long this pattern will last for. The European model, let me show you this, for the next 240 hours, less than the GFS, also shows some incredible amounts of snow and rain equivalents here of 14, 15 inches, not only limited to California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Nevada. Incredible. I know I keep using that word, but I mean truly is, especially during a La Nina pattern. This is something you don't really typically see at all. We've had 3 La Nina years now in a row, and the last 2 have had pretty good events of precipitation for the Southwest. Not enough to make it an above average season, but we had periods where it was like 3 big systems moving, 4 big in a row. But this is already the second one of the year. The first one we had earlier on, which is why already a lot of these areas are running above average in terms of snowpack. But yeah, the magnitude of this one is just unparalleled to the other ones, and really, really, truly incredible. Good news is a lot of you guys haven't seen that much activity the last 2 weeks, so it's at least you got a little bit of nice weather in between. But yeah, the next couple of weeks are going to be a brutal onslaught. In terms of total snowfall that the European shows across this whole pattern, yeah, some amounts across the Sierra, easily over 100 inches. Of Wasatch, 50s. I would not be surprised to see similar amounts across Colorado. Nevada doesn't have as such large mountain ranges, but still across a higher elevated area, some significant snow, and across Arizona likely as well, at least 3 feet plus in some areas. Just from this upcoming system alone, you can see the mountains are going to be as significant. Still a foot easily plus across the Wasatch, if not several feet, because this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Some of this will be falling at colder amounts or colder temperatures. And across the Sierra, again, a decent event as well, to say the least. Okay, let's move on now to the north central United States, as this is also where we get some pretty interesting pattern impacts from this. Not necessarily the copious amounts of precipitation, though, that the Northwest will be dealing with, but more so the abrupt abrupt pattern change that will be occurring across this area. So right now, and especially the last few days, it's been extremely cold across these areas. I know my area has been unusually cold, and most of these areas are frozen, right? So you'd be really surprised to see in the forecast 50s and 60s, and I'm sure probably some of you have realized that, yeah, there's going to be a massive warm up. So we will still have some lake effect off the Great Lakes, affecting some areas, especially off the Eastern Lakes, Erie and Ontario, but I'll talk about that once we get to the Northeast. Notice, so we have a clipper system going through southern Canada into Tuesday and into, so tomorrow and into Wednesday. This could drop some pretty nice snow for cities like Thunder Bay and other cities across the province of Ontario. Notice maybe across northern North Dakota and here into Saskatchewan, Minnesota, cities like Winnipeg and Brandon picking up a little bit of snow. Though notice that while that's going on, we have some incredibly strong winds coming in from the south and west, and you know what that all means? That means it's cold air gets out of here real quick, and a lot of this will be dry initially, but soon moisture starts filtering in, and we do see that system from the west not evolve into a massive storm, but it does bring some rain, some snow, and again, despite it being a warm pattern, there could still be areas like Minneapolis, Duluth picking up snowfall. You know, it won't be a summer warm pattern, it's still a winter warm pattern, so you know, winter storms like this type of stuff, they could easily grow into beasts. This first one, however, for the north central United States on the 30th, so New Year's Eve, won't be necessarily a massive storm. You can see millibars 998. That's really nothing too significant, especially compared to the ones we've been seeing, where you know the previous one got down to 96, I think 4. So not even close. However, you can see quite a bit of rainfall, especially towards the southern parts of these areas. And again, temperatures are going to be in flux. So there's going to be days where it's warmer, days where it's cooler. However, nothing cold like we've been seeing. And again, it's going to be more on the warmer side. You can see on January 1st now, so New Year's Day, we see a separate kind of system maybe coming through, more rain, again some snow towards the northern areas, and it does look like it's beginning to be a likelihood that you know, these first two systems, you can see these two first waves, more rain, less snow, just nothing too incredible, but it does look like we could have a really big one develop on January, the first days of January, the first work week where many people get back across the Dakotas and into Minnesota, some sort of a big beast. Details are unconfirmed and very fuzzy, but you can see heavy rain towards the south, obviously, across Illinois, Missouri, Indiana. Would be nice to see more rain across Kansas, Nebraska, where there's that incredible drought going on, but again, you can see it's a more stronger low pressure 984, 986, so definitely something that's more powerful. Nothing incredible, definitely something though that's to watch for, and you can see some of those snowfall amounts could be very heavy. And after that, there is some cold air that moves in, which could maybe lead to another storm system that drops snow further south. So that's going to be interesting. Overall, very active. I would say very wet for a lot of these areas, and for some areas across the north where it's colder, it could be rather snowy. Total snowfall, especially with that system later on, could be pretty significant here. Though towards the south, you know, maybe towards a longer range forecast period, we could start seeing some more cold air filtering in, producing snowfall. That's just a little bit too far out. Notice the rain is definitely more impressive across Ohio, the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Michigan, even Illinois, Ohio, Nebraska, right there. So definitely something to watch for as well. But the biggest story, I would say, in terms of noticeable change, will be just incredible temperatures for this time of the year. You could see we'll have anomalies running potentially into the records, especially this next few weeks. Into, you can see even by December 28th. There's 30th. So areas that are going to dip down into 5-6 degrees tonight, like my area, we could be looking at temperatures in terms of Fahrenheit readings that are in the 40s and 50s. So I mean, again, it's pretty darn warm for this time of the year. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And you can see the European also agrees with that. Minimal snowfall for these areas, and in terms of what it shows for the precipitation forecast, it shows again quite a robust period of activity, again with nothing big from the first two storms, but that second one, you can see the European takes further south, shows more snow across Minnesota, heavy rain towards the south, and introduces a little bit of cold air behind that, again potentially developing another system behind that further east. So we'll have to watch. Definitely though, not as impressive of a pattern as the west will be seeing. It's going to be still a significant flip from what we've been seeing, and some strong storms still occurring in terms of storm systems. South, same thing, very similar to the north central United States. It's been very cold the last few days. It's going to warm up, and in a big way. It's going to go from being very cold to seasonal to very warm in like a matter of a few days. So notice across the Rockies from those storm systems riding in from the west, there's going to be a lot of precipitation there. Unfortunately, not much activity across Kansas, Oklahoma, where we have that drought, into Nebraska. A little bits of precipitation you can see on Thursday, maybe. Again, maybe a little bit of a cool shot of air, but for the most part, very heavy rain staying mainly kind of around the Mississippi Valley area into the southern Mississippi Valley across Arkansas, Louisiana, maybe eastern Texas, right? So Dallas, Houston picking up some rainfall. Again, western Texas, western Oklahoma, not too much, and you can see that these systems that come off the west can have skip over these areas, leave a lot of warm air, but they, again, most of the precipitation they deposit is further eastward. You can see, and with each system it's going to be different, right? And I'm trying to show you many different storms here, not just one particular one, because of just the sheer amount of storms that will be occurring one after another. I kind of want to show you all of them because it will give you a better look of what's to come. Later on, you know, as we get towards January 5th, 6th, 7th, we get more cool air coming in. Nothing incredible, but you know that could limit some of that rainfall amount and maybe produce some sort of a storm system. Still, temperatures staying predominantly above average. Let me show you that because this is also something that's incredible. Again, we've been seeing very cold air, and you can see that behind. Out ahead of this, I mean, literally within a few days, Wednesday, Tuesday, and then by Thursday, it's very warm across these areas. Temperatures are going to be in the 60s, 70s, especially towards the shorelines of the Gulf right there. So very, very impressive. Obviously, there will be cool downs. You can see towards New Year's Day, maybe a bit cooler New Year's Eve there. Still staying warm across Houston, Dallas, Louisiana, the coastal areas. Yeah, a warmer pattern of predominantly periods of cool weather in between systems. Predominantly warm though, and we will just have to wait and see see how this develops because you know it's pretty big pattern flip from what we've been seeing. Rainfall again limited towards eastern sections of the north central U.S. and the European shows a very similar pattern with that first big system off the west coast. You can see not evolving into anything massive. There will be some rain across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, into eastern Texas, but it's not going to evolve into a massive storm, though there could be a larger one with the risk for severe weather on potentially Monday of next week. So that's something we'll have to watch for. Again, very carefully. So that is that for the south central United States. Let's take a look at the northeastern United States. This is another area that will have a large, let's say, pattern change from this from these storms riding in from the west. Notice right now there's that lake effect, the one that, you know, obviously the very concerning event that happened across Lake Erie, where I think up to a dozen people died, if not more. So obviously that, you know, a lot of these areas are either frozen with snow or just have tons of snow. You will see additional snow for especially the Canadian cities here just north of the U.S. border on Wednesday, Thursday. Nothing incredible, or some light snowfall will be falling, mainly done by Thursday. Except maybe extreme northern areas continuing seeing some precip. What we do see again, the biggest change that will be felt is, well, the winds are going to come completely from, instead of being kind of the southwest into pretty much completely southern winds, and this is going to introduce a lot of warm air by Thursday. A lot of these areas are going to be above average and above freezing. Even areas that are going to be seeing some snow on Wednesday are going to be well into the 40s by probably Friday, Saturday. Introduces some rainfall, and that's concerning, obviously, especially where we have that heavy snowfall that could cause some flooding issues and whatnot. So that's something we'll have to look for. Again, what's unique about this is look how far north this rain gets. I mean, the snow starts occurring pretty far north here, but yeah, it's pretty far towards the north. It's not anywhere even across the northeast. Mainly a rain event, and you can see that's for the coastal cities. This is all rain. It's very warm. Maine, the northeast, maybe a little bit of snow with some of these if there's some cold air, but mainly a rainy pattern for you. Completely different from what we've been seeing, and you can see that there could be quite a bit of this activity, system after system, similar to what's going on across the west, where we're going to have a massive beast after massive beast coming and dropping rain and snow. We're going to have, you know, individual, maybe not beasts, but storms that are going to be moving through, dropping some rain, maybe some snow, especially towards the later part of the forecast period where we finally get some cooler air introduced here. By the time all said is done, we'll have some pretty incredible rainfall amounts across these areas, especially Ohio, Kentucky, maybe into Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, some very significant rainfall amounts. And I do want to show you that In terms of the temperatures, again, we're going to go from a predominantly, obviously, very cold pattern into a very warm pattern very, very quickly. Thursday, Friday, some of these anomalies are reaching towards potentially records. And, yeah, it's going to be an incredible warm-up. You can see peaking potentially maybe a week or two from now across early January with some of these temperatures ridiculously warm. 50s, 60s as far as upstate New York. I mean, we'll have areas that are under feet of snow right now be in the 60s. Incredible potentially warmth for these areas. But eventually that does come into mind. You can see pretty abruptly, and we see some cold weather moving in, and that's when we can start seeing a major pattern shift. Still, again, a very, very loaded weather pattern coming in here for the northeastern United States. Southeastern United States, let's talk about you. Also a pretty big change. You guys have been seeing quite a bit of cold air recently, even a little bit of snow into northern Tennessee, Kentucky and whatnot, but we do see those southerly winds, and we see that cold air kicked out of here. We see very warm air replacing that, and of course with warm air comes moisture, so you'll be seeing a rainy pattern. You can see these folks dealing with quite a bit of thunderstorms into this upcoming weekend, Sunday, Saturday, and that's not going to stop. You can see into next Tuesday, another band of precipitation into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, another flare-up, Saturday, and at this point we're pretty far out, and you can see the pattern continues to be relatively unstable, though it does look like it will start quieting out towards the first week of January, and maybe more cooler air or seasonable air moving in. In terms of the total accumulated precipitation, in terms of rainfall, obviously there won't be any snowfall falling here, especially with those temperature anomalies. You can see pretty significant widespread swath of anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, maybe Florida getting excluded from the heaviest rainfall. I'm pretty much seeing a very few amounts of rain there. But yeah, rather incredible amounts of rainfall. In terms of total, not total, but in terms of the 2-meter temperature anomalies, I want to show you this. Again, we're going from a much cooler pattern to a quickly much warmer pattern, and those anomalies are really going to be impressive, especially out ahead of some of these systems, potentially, again, reaching records across some of these areas. And, with such strong anomalies being this far south, you'll have some almost hot temperatures across some of these areas, 70s, 80s, especially towards Florida, just hot. And then you can see that we do see some more seasonal cool air moving inevitably towards the ender part of this weather pattern. Still, we'll have to see, because some of these systems right now, storms we're not really sure what they're going to do. We just know that there's going to be a lot of activity, so we'll have to see how this all plays out. For now, though, this is all I have for you guys, and I will give you guys a little quick overview right now. Again, you can see this first beast is moving in right now across the western United States. This thing is a monster in terms of the precip, the winds, but again, as it moves through the north central United States, it doesn't really do much. Again, bring some little spotty showers and whatnot, so this is why for these areas I talked more about what the weather pattern is just going to do instead of individual storms, because this first one's not going to bring much. It's going to bring some rain, obviously, but nothing incredible. The second one that could be moving into on California New Year's Eve could be, ironically, a lot weaker as it moves in, but then it goes through the mountains, takes the southern track right here, and you can see that it develops into a much more significant system across the north central plains. Some heavy snow across areas that kind of needed across Kansas, Nebraska, heavy rain across Missouri, Arkansas, and then this thing again explodes into a larger system, so that's something we'll have to watch for. But notice the flow continues off the northwest there, and more systems are potentially going to be happening. That's the European. The GFS shows a very similar, if not even a more active pattern. So I'll keep you guys updated. For now, that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.